So you want to be a game master, right? Hey, save your non-player character sheets. If you're like a lot of players, myself, let's speak about me specifically. I learned after some years that most NPCs, if they're important to whatever the dialogue or scenario is, then I prefer to create them myself, because I want them to fit the scenario and potentially whatever situation they're supposed to be in. I want to save that, or I want to custom make that. Now, there's a lot of NPCs that are just, as you well know, they're bumping the crowd, a brief mention, maybe not even worth writing down at that point. Over time, though, I discovered that I can create a plethora of NPCs over time. And I started to save them in a folder. And what it did is it gave me a ready pool of ready-to-go NPCs if I need to pull one on the spur of the moment. Now, a lot of NPCs, you can just wing it. You can ad-lib it if you need to do in that scenario. If they're, like I said, they're just a 2-bit a player that's going to come in, do a thing, or say a thing, or just be present and then leave, and then there's no point in going into a lot of depth and detail on them. But a lot of NPCs I've discovered over the decades, shopkeepers, if the characters repetitively come back to the same location, those NPCs start to take on some personalities, and you can use that to your advantage for, random encounter kind of stuff. So they happen to be in town, they're coming out of the tavern, or they're doing their shopping, and then they come around the corner, and Leo over here is getting harassed by whatever, and he's the general storekeeper that your party's been dealing with for a minute. They might become invested a little bit at that. It's just something in my experience that it's worth keeping track of and saving. So it's the same principle that I use for both baddies, especially really good ones that I put a lot of effort into. All you got to do is wait enough scenarios, enough sessions, maybe for another campaign altogether, pull them out of your folder, change the name. Bing, bang, boom. A lot of hard work already done and ready to go. Things don't necessarily change that much when it comes to the mechanics of systems. So, grant you, if I went back to my first edition material, which I don't have anymore, I would have had to have altered that stuff for second edition. But the truth is, most of my first edition stuff went away when I started replacing with second edition NPCs and things like this, and it just kind of segues out over time. But you end up with, at one point, I had a couple hundred. I had a pretty decent sized folder full of them. Of course, when I moved in storage, a lot of it got lost and thrown away, so it is what it was. But I still found them valuable. The same thing goes with character sheets. So if you have players that come and they create characters, and then they, for 5 sessions later, choose to not show up anymore, and you have their sheets, keep them. Make use of them. They make great NPCs. They also make impromptu, ready-to-run player sheets for somebody who just shows up at the table and says, "Can I play?" Well, sure. Here, play this one. And they don't need to know it was a previous player's character sheet. I mean, if it's not that important, don't bring it up. The same scenario is saving them for, once again, for non-player characters as well, and they're pre-designed. They've got some little bit of story behind them, a little bit of history behind them. You can tap that. I have done that on more accounts than more times than I can care to remember. One of the things that I've had long-term players start to notice the patterns when they go, I wonder if Leo's still there in that town. We was there, 3 years ago. I wonder if he's still around, what he's doing. They're passing through the village, and lo and behold, maybe I'll flip a dice to see if Leo's still around, and if not, then the characters can either investigate and find out why, and potentially go off on an adventure to discover Leo, or save him, or whatever. Or he's just doing fine and dandy, business is steady, and he recognizes the players as they walk in his shop and goes, "Oh, my friends, welcome back. It's been many years now. You have grown much. Look at you, all this, right?" I'm just saying, take advantage of this stuff. Don't just throw it and throw it away. I mean, that's a mistake. It's the same concept when I point out that if you've got all these modules, if you're hanging on to these modules, they're full of characters, non-player characters. Bing, bang, boom. This is what I mean by when I make the occasional reference of being a lazy DM. This is what I'm talking about. Reusing, repurposing the stuff you've already spent a lot of hard work doing. You keep adding stuff to your repertoire, to your collection. You'll never run out of impromptu pull a rabbit out of my butt scenario, character sheets and NPCs. Just pointing out to you a little trick that's worked real well for me for a long time. Something to consider anyway, right?